Hi, Mom and Dad, and anyone else watching this. I told you I was going to read James Herriot to you, and I'm going to start on chapter 12. On chapter 12. Okay, so remember, Siegfried's brother Tristan lived with them, and he was kind of a goof off and didn't finish college. And anyway, I think that's where this is going to pick up. Okay, chapter 12. It was unfortunate that Siegfried ever had the idea of delegating the bookkeeping to his brother, because Skeldale House had been passing through a period of peace, and I found it soothing. For nearly a fortnight there had been hardly a raised voice or an angry word, except for one unpleasant interlude when Siegfried had come in and found his brother cycling along the passage. Tristan found all the rage and shouting quite incomprehensible. He had been given the job of setting the table, and it was a long way from the kitchen to dining room. It seemed the most natural thing in the world to bring his bike in. Autumn had come with a sharpness in the air, and at nights the log fire burned bright in the big room, sending shadows flickering over the graceful alcoves and up to the high carved ceilings. It was always a good time when the work of the day was through, and the three of us lay back in the shabby armchairs and stretched our feet out to the blaze. Tristan was occupied with the Daily Telegraph crossword, which he did every night. Siegfried was reading when I was dozing. It embarrassed me to be drawn into the crossword. Siegfried could usually make a contribution after a minute's thought, but Tristan could have the whole thing worked out while I wrestled with the first clue. The carpet round our feet was hidden by the dogs, all 5 of them draped over each other in heavy breathing layers and adding to the atmosphere of camaraderie and content. It seemed to me that a chill breath struck through the comfort of the room as Siegfried spoke. Market day tomorrow, and the bills have just gone out. They'll be queuing up to give us the money, so I want you, Tristan, to devote the entire day to taking it from them. James and I are going to be busy, so you'll be in sole charge. All you have to do is take their checks, give them a receipt, and enter their names in the receipt book. Now, do you think you can manage that without making a bloody hash of it? I winced. It was the first discordant note for a long time, and it struck deep. I think I might just about cope with that, Tristan replied haughtily. Good. Let's go to bed then. But next day, it was easy to see that the assignment was right up Tristan's street. Stationed behind the desk, he took the money in handfuls, and all the time he talked. But he did not talk at random. Each character got a personal approach. With the upright Methodist, it was the weather, the price of cows, and the activities of the village institute. The raffish type, with his cap on one side, exhaling fumes of market ale, got the latest stories which Tristan kept on the backs of envelopes. But with the ladies, he rose to his greatest heights. They were on his side from the first because of his innocent, boyish face, but then he turned the full blast of his charm on them, and their surrender was complete. I was amazed at the giggles which came from behind the door. I was pleased the lad was doing well. Nothing was going wrong this time. Tristan was smug at lunchtime and cock-a-hoop at tea. Siegfried, too, was satisfied with the day's takings, which his brother presented in the form of a column of neat figures accurately totaled at the bottom. Thank you, Tristan. Very efficient. All was sweetness. At the end of the day, I was in the yard, throwing the used bottles from the boot of my car into a bin. It had been a busy day, and I had accumulated a bigger than usual load of empties. Tristan came panting in from the garden. Jim, I've lost the receipt book. Always trying to pull my leg, always joking, I said. Why don't you give your sense of humor a rest sometime? I laughed heartily and sent a liniment bottle crashing among the others. He plucked at my sleeve. I'm not joking, Jim, believe me. I really have lost the bloody thing. For once his sang-froid had deserted him. His eyes were wide, his face pale. But it can't just have disappeared, I said. It's bound to turn up. It'll never turn up, Tristan wrung his hands and did a bit of pacing on the cobbles. Do you know I've spent about 2 hours searching for it? I've ransacked the house. It's gone, I tell you. But it doesn't matter, does it? You'll have transferred all the names into the ledger. Well, that's just it. I haven't. I was going to do it tonight. So that means that all the farmers who have been handing you money today are going to get the same bill next month? Looks like it. I can't remember the names of more than 2 or 3 of them. Oh, man, I sat down heavily on the stone trough. Then God help us all, especially you. These Yorkshire lads don't like parting with their brass once, but when you ask them to do it twice, oh, brother. Another thought struck me, and I said with a touch of cruelty, and how about Siegfried? Have you told him yet? A spasm crossed Tristan's face. No, he's just come in. I'm going to do it now. He squared his shoulders and strode from the yard. I decided not to follow him to the house. I didn't feel strong enough for the scene which was bound to follow. Instead, I went out into the back lane and round behind the house to the marketplace, where the lighted entrance of the Drovers' Arms beckoned in the dusk. I was sitting behind a pint when Tristan came in, looking as though somebody had just drained half a gallon of blood from him. How did it go? I asked. Oh, the usual, you know. Bit worse this time, maybe. But I can tell you this, Jim. I'm not looking forward to a month from today. The receipt book was never found, and a month later, all the bills were sent out again, timed as usual to arrive on market day morning. The practice was quiet that particular day, and I had finished my round by mid-morning. I didn't go into the house because through the waiting room window I could see rows of farmers sitting around the walls. They all wore the same offended, self-righteous expression. I stole away to the marketplace. When I had time, I enjoyed moving among the stalls which crowded the ancient square. You could buy fruit, fish, second-hand books, cheeses, clothes, in fact, nearly everything. But the china stall was my favorite. It was run by a Jewish gentleman from Leeds, a fat, confident, sweating, and with a hypnotic selling technique. I never got tired of watching him. He fascinated me. He was in his best form today, standing in a little clearing, surrounded on all sides by heaps of crockery, while beyond, the farmers' wives listened open mouths to his oratory. I'm not good looking, he was saying. I'm not clever, but by God, I can talk. I can talk the hind leg off a donkey. Now look here. He lifted a cheap cup and held it aloft, but tenderly gripping it between his thick thumb and forefinger, his little finger daintily outspread. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, isn't that lovely? Then he placed it reverently on the palm of his hand and displayed it to the audience. Now, I tell you, ladies, you can buy the self-same tea set in Connors in Bradford for £3.15. I'm not joking nor jesting. It's there, and that's the price. But my price, ladies, and here he finished out an old walking stick with a splintered handle. My price for this beautiful tea set, he held the stick by its end and brought it crashing down on an empty tea chest. Never mind £3.15, crash. Never mind £3, crash. Never mind £2, crash. Never mind 30 bob, crash. Air, come on, who'll give me a quid? Not a soul moved. All right, I can see I've met my match today. Go on, 17 and a tanner the lot. A final devastating crash, and the ladies began to make signals and fumble in their handbags. A little man emerged from the back of the stall and started to hand out the tea sets. The ritual had been observed, and everybody was happy. I was waiting, deeply content, for the next item from the virtuoso when I saw a burly figure in a check cap waving wildly at me from the edge of the crowd. He had his hand inside his jacket, and I knew what he was feeling for. I didn't hesitate, but dodged quickly behind a stall laden with pig troughs and wire netting. I had gone only a few steps before another farmer hailed me purposefully. He was brandishing an envelope. I felt trapped. Then I saw a way of escape. Rapidly skirting a counter displaying cheap jewelry, I plunged into the doorway of the Drover's Arms and, avoiding the bar, which was full of farmers, slipped into the manager's office. I was safe. This was one place where I was always welcome. The manager looked up from his desk, but he did not smile. "Look here," he said sharply. "I brought my dog in to see you some time ago, and in due course I received an account from you." I cringed inwardly. I paid by return and was extremely surprised this morning to find that another account had been rendered. I have here a receipt signed by... I couldn't stand anymore. "I'm very sorry, Mr. Brooke, but there's been a mistake. I'll put it right. Please accept our apologies." This became a familiar refrain over the next few days, but it was Siegfried who had the most unfortunate experience. It was in the bar of his favorite pub, the Black Swan. He was approached by Billy Breckenridge, a friendly, jocular little character, one of Derby's worthies. "Hey, remember that 3 and 6 I paid at your surgery? I've had another bill for it." Siegfried made a polished apology. He'd had a lot of practice, but bought the man a drink. They parted on good terms. The pity of it was that Siegfried, who seldom remembered anything, didn't remember this. A month later, also in the Swan, he ran into Billy Breckenridge again. This time, Billy wasn't so jocular. "Hey, remember that bill you sent me twice? Well, I've had it again." Siegfried did his best, but the charm bounced off the little man. He was offended. "Right. I can see you don't believe I paid your bill. I had a receipt from your brother, but I've lost it." He brushed aside Siegfried's protestations. No, there's no, there's only one way to settle this. I say I've paid the 3 and 6, you say I haven't. All right, I'll toss you for it." Miserably, Siegfried demurred, but Billy was adamant. He produced a penny and, with a great dignity, balanced it on his thumbnail. "Okay, you call." Pew. Heads, muttered Siegfried, and heads it was. The little man did not change expression. Still dignified, he handed the 3 and 6 to Siegfried. "Perhaps we might be able to consider the matter closed." He walked out of the bar. Now, there were all kinds of bad memories, but Siegfried's was of the inspired type. He somehow forgot to make a note of this last transaction, and at the end of the month, Billy Breckenridge received a 4th request for the amount, which had already been paid twice. It was about then that Siegfried changed his pub and started going to the Cross Keys. Okay, that was chapter 12. I'll read more for chapter 13 another time. I love you. Have a good evening. Mwah.